At the microscopic level, the biological engine of plant growth is the shoot apical meristem. Here, primordia bud outward in a continuous, tight spiral. At the shoot tip, leaves emerge at an irrational divergence angle of exactly 137.5 degrees, the golden angle. But as the stem elongates, this irrational spiral disappears. The leaves reorganize into straight vertical ranks defined by rational fractions, like 2/5 or 3/8. You can observe this transition on a mature poplar tree. The leaves stack in precise vertical alignment, far removed from their initial tight spirals. This structural shift presents a mechanical problem. Why does a plant begin its life building leaves with an irrational number, only to force itself into a rational fraction later? Transitioning from a curved spiral to a straight grid requires the plant to physically alter its own geometry as it grows. There has to be a physical mechanism driving this shift. The standard hypothesis, often taught in introductory biology, is that the 137.5-degree angle evolved to maximize sunlight exposure across individual leaves. However, light capture is more heavily influenced by leaf width, stalk length, and habitat than by the divergence angle of the leaves themselves. In real-world simulations, these other variables have a much larger impact on energy gain, leaving the sunlight optimization theory without a strong mathematical basis. The actual physical constraint lies in the internal plumbing. As the stem elongates and leaves shift to mature vertical positions, the plant must physically twist its internal tissues to keep the vascular system connected. In 2015, biophysicist Takuya Okabe proposed a strictly mechanical explanation. He demonstrated that the golden angle is the optimal evolutionary geometry to minimize the shear energy required for this internal stem torsion. The golden angle persists because it resolves mechanical stresses within the plant's vascular core. To understand this stress, we have to look at leaf traces. These are the internal vascular bundles that connect individual leaves back into the main integrated network of the plant stem. As the plant grows, these internal vascular traces must readjust their pathways. Tracing the upward progression shows the bundles curving and reconnecting at different nodes. Over time, the plant progresses through mature fractions, from 1/2 to 1/3, 2/5, 3/8, and finally 5/13. The plant cannot maintain its original irrational angle because the mature leaves must stack vertically to support their physical weight and structure. However, bending and reconnecting these vascular bundles during elongation generates physical torsion. This twisting costs the plant vital metabolic energy. Because this torsion is a massive energetic drain, natural selection isolates the starting geometry that makes this twisting as minimal as possible. Okabe's model calculates this burden using specific variables. The first is alpha 0, the initial divergence angle at the shoot tip. The second is alpha n, the final mature fractional angle. The mathematical difference between these states is the angular shift, labeled delta alpha. Delta alpha represents the physical torsion per leaf. The larger the shift, the more the stem must twist to bridge the gap. But biology is rarely perfect. This trait has a standard deviation, meaning the initial starting angle fluctuates slightly between individual plants. The ultimate evolutionary problem is finding an initial alpha 0 angle that minimizes the total sum of delta alpha over the plant's entire development. Solving this requires mapping every possible divergence angle against its mechanical energy cost, revealing the evolutionary landscape. This chart maps that exact calculation, plotting every possible divergence angle against the energetic cost of twisting. The horizontal axis is the initial angle, and the vertical axis is the mechanical energy cost. When a plant's genetic precision is low, the energy cost curve remains relatively smooth and undifferentiated. But as genetic precision increases, the landscape changes drastically. Sharp peaks appear along the solid blue curve, exactly at rational fractions, representing divergence angles that require substantial energy. To survive, natural selection pushes the plant's biology down into the deep valleys between these peaks, seeking the lowest possible energy state. Looking at the deepest valley on the entire chart reveals the global minimum of energy expenditure. That global minimum sits precisely at 0.382 on the horizontal axis. Converted to degrees, that is exactly 137.5, the golden angle. The golden angle is universally dominant because it is the mathematical path of least resistance for connecting vascular tissue. A rigorous mathematical model requires testing. If it is accurate, it must also predict the anomalies observed in nature. Returning to the energy landscape, we can search for secondary, shallower valleys that a species might fall into. There is a prominent local minimum on the left side of the chart, located at 0.276, or 99.5 degrees. Falling into this specific valley forces a plant to adopt a different mathematical sequence of rational fractions: 1/3, 1/4, 2/7, and 3/11. If an evolutionary trajectory gets blocked by an energetic peak, a species can become trapped in the secondary minimum. Botanists have documented outlier plant species, like the Sedum, that persistently express this exact anomalous sequence. These outlier plants aren't breaking the rules of Phyllotaxis. Their strange geometry is a perfectly rational output of a localized energetic trap. Whether a plant lands in the global minimum of the golden angle or a local anomaly, its final form is dictated entirely by the cost of twisting. The dominant sequence of fractions on Earth, the Fibonacci series, all originate from this single global minimum of 137.5 degrees. This optimized low-energy state allows gymnosperms to build highly efficient, dense structures. It is the exact same vascular optimization that allows angiosperms to pack hundreds of seeds into massive, structural flower heads. The Fibonacci spirals found across the plant kingdom are the direct structural result of this energy optimization. Every seed and scale follows a path of minimal resistance within the stem.